Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Barber Shop Talk. I'm your host, R.W. Coolins. Another Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. We do this every once in a while with a plethora of brothers that I got here with me this morning. I had to stop myself and laugh. Black men and mental health. Black men and mental health. And some people will say, why is it only black men? Because that's what we are. That's what we're going to talk about. We're talking about how it affects us and everything. There'll be some people out there to be like, they always concentrating on black men. But if that's all we know, that's all we know. So without further ado, but let me do this first. Let me do this as I'm bringing them in. 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. Call in. If you want to join in on the conversation, join in. Let's do this. I'm bringing them in, all of them in. Let's see who we got here. We got my man, OT. Say good morning, OT.
Good morning.
James
good
Battle.
morning.
My brother,
good morning,
James
sir.
Battle.
Good morning. Good morning.
John Chaney.
Good morning. Good morning.
Phil McCurdy.
Morning.
Truck driver extraordinaire.
Hey,
Reggie P-Row.
What's up? What's up? Good morning, everybody.
Ron Hilliard.
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
All right. And he got one. He having some technical difficulties, but he gonna get in. He'll get in. He's gonna keep trying. But look here. How's everybody doing this morning, man? Let's just get the formalities out of the way. What's going on, people? How y'all doing, man?
Feeling wonderful this morning, my brother.
Yeah, I appreciate somebody speaking up. I mean, come on, man.
It's better to be seen than viewed.
Amen.
Well, why you here? I mean, you got to bring something to the table, bro. Other than the knife and the fork. Let's be real,
viewed, baby.
Let's go. So this
doing
morning,
some reflection.
We reflected. Let me start off like this morning, y'all. Let's start off like this. Terrence Collins, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Let me start off with this morning, and I'm gonna highlight this. he ain't expecting this, so I'm gonna go ahead and do what we do. Hold on. I'm trying to work these controls. I ain't got nobody in the back. Today.
Wow.
Is OT's. I ain't gonna give him the age, bro. You can give him the age.
48.
Today is OT's 48th birthday.
Oh, baby.
Let's give OT a round of applause on his birthday, man.
Appreciate y'all. Appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it.
He's still on Similac.
Yeah.
Nah. That Similac been gone. Glad. That Similac been gone.
Okay. All right.
Similac is some 30-year-old.
Wait till we get to the 50 club, the 50 club.
Listen, it's coming. But I'm grateful. I'm definitely grateful, man.
Yeah, he ain't gonna catch us, but he close behind.
Yes, sir.
He close behind.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I gotta send something. So, all right, so let's get into this, man. Let me start off with this. Black men and mental health. Now, when you hear mental health, let's go back to when we was younger. One of the main things we thought about, because you didn't really hear mental health when we were younger, right? We heard he crazy, elevator don't go all the way up, and we didn't understand schizophrenia. We didn't understand the paranoias, all the different things you can think about, right? So I asked this question because from our experiences, let's start off with here. We talk about mental health for us now compared to what we know from our experiences. How much of your mindset has changed as far as thinking when you may need help? And I'll let anybody start.
Big time. Woo. I realized that my family really got done hurt me. They hurt me, man. They hurt me. They hurt me. But at the end of the day, realizing that I need it changed probably about 7 years ago.
Mm.
Right, realizing that I really need it. When you're going through things and you don't know how to have transparency with it, right? Like sometimes you can't go to your family and your friends because it's too much of a judgmental thing, right? Everybody,
Hold on one. Let me ask this question when you say that, because I want everybody to chime in on this too. When you say you can't go to your families and friends, is it that we can't go, or we're hesitant because past experiences have shown that what we tell them may not be just between us?
So speaking for myself, I'm sorry if I cut in on anybody. Speaking for myself, to piggyback on what you're talking about, I've reached out to family and friends, and family and friends gonna give you well, give it to God, just pray on it, everything's gonna be all right. So me, I've had some struggles recently, and
Willis, you good?
and good morning, brother. Had to have a couple of fights with myself. So I reached out to professionals because I figured that I'm gonna give it to God, but I'm gonna give it to the people who has blessed to help me. So going through some challenges, going through some frustrations, I said, man, no P, you gonna have to get some help, dog. So I reached out, went to the VA. Now, man, I got twice a week. I'm in a group. I'm talking to somebody. I'm feeling better about me. So and as a black man, the first thing we want to do is, man, I don't need no damn help. I'm gonna figure this out for myself. I'm strong, man. I don't need nobody. You know what I mean? I don't need nobody. So, I went through that, man, for about 10 years, and that downward spiral kept going, man, mentally and physically. So I went on ahead and said, hey, man, I need some help. And man, thank God I'm getting better, bro. Yeah. Better every day.
Hold on one. Willis, can you hear us? Willis, can you hear?
I don't think he can hear. He can't
hear.
He
can't hear us. He's gonna have to go back out and go back in.
Kind of talking in chat.
Yeah, he's gonna have to go out. Willis, if you can hear us, go out and come back in. Out and in. I'll send him a message.
I hit him in the chat.
Okay, hit him in the chat. I don't know if he can see the chat.
You want me to
text him? Yeah, just text him and let him know to go back out and come back in. Sometimes it's hit and miss, man. So, but to touch on what P. Rose said, man, what we don't recognize a lot of times is that's the first step, and that's the biggest step, is recognizing you need help. You know what I'm saying? Recognizing that you need help and actually seeking help. So I'm gonna take this one. I'm gonna go straight to Ron. Ron, I'm gonna ask you this question, man, because we had a discussion yesterday, brother. Something you said really jumped out at me.
Okay.
Asking for help as a self-identified introvert. Mm-hmm. When you struggle and you go through things, how do you handle that?
Man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because it looked like we kind of all about close in age, and if you came up anyway like I did, and I'm from the South, I'm from South Carolina. You're not gonna get a lot of help by way of other men. You know what I'm saying? You got your grandma, you got your women around you, and they're gonna play their role and do their thing. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to reaching out to other men, whether it's your father, grandfather, uncles, or whatever, everybody's trying to teach a lesson. And a lot of times, part of that lesson is trying to get you to do it yourself, or you're asking for help, and they're gonna give you a little bit, but not a lot. So, I came up kind of like you said, we talked yesterday and the whole, introvert thing, and just from, like you said, reaching out to people and maybe just having a history of, okay, not really getting a lot of help, you kind of develop tough skin, and you kind of get to that point where you kind of like, man, if I want to get this done, I got to do it myself. And you do that for so long that by the time, you get to the point where you really do need help, you don't even have that skill set. How do I ask somebody for help when I've spent 30, 40 years always being like, I got to figure it out myself? Because even when I did ask people, they kind of give you a little bit, you know what I'm saying? It's just like the whole analogy of throwing you in the deep end of the pool, right? Ain't nobody gonna help you learn how to swim. They're gonna throw you in and let you figure it out yourself. So yeah, so
So with that, no, I want to say, go ahead.
What is an introvert for those who don't know?
So
Ron, hear you.
that's the poster child right there. They say that's the poster child.
So for me, I mean, and people may have their own definition of it, but I consider myself an introvert because I am most comfortable when I'm by myself. And I know kind of that's a general where people are like, well, I mean, everybody comfortable by themselves. But what I mean is kind of like I prefer the company of very few people. I enjoy doing things alone most of the time. So if there's a choice between me hanging out with folks and doing something by myself, I actually enjoy doing things by myself more than doing things with other people.
So my question real fast is that just you being peaceful with yourself instead of just a terminology that's just been used? Because everybody got different terminologies when it comes down to introverts, right? So if y'all just making that like a whole thing, or is it just I'm just in peace with myself?
I've never heard somebody say it that way. I would consider it that.
Okay.
But I think people use introvert and extrovert to kind of just talk about the two extremes of the same thing. So I use, for example, my wife is definitely an extrovert.
Okay.
And
what is that?
So that's somebody that wants to be involved with other people socially, active. Like if I'll give you an example, OT. If we're in the house on Saturday, but today's Saturday, I'll tell you right now. See, she already gone. She gone somewhere. She came. She she going out there, getting her hair done. She got to talk to the girlfriends. They got to have brunch. She has to have that social interaction in order to feel fulfilled.
All right, so that's a sociable person. So that's a sociable person. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
There you go.
Because y'all new kids and y'all new terminologies and stuff like that. Like I would want people to understand, because we dealing with us, the men that's over 50, because they call me the man that's not over 50 yet.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. For those who are listening, like I really want to know, because we call it something different. Like I call it a person being sociable and a person respecting their peace. Y'all got this new age of defining stuff that I never even heard of. Just to be honest, that's not in the dictionary.
Yes, it is.
Yes, that's in the hood dictionary.
So here's the thing.
That's your problem. Hold on, Pete. Hold that thought. Cheney, I want you to chime in real quick, Cheney, because
I think Cheney just dropped.
No, not that Cheney.
Oh,
John
my bad.
Cheney.
My
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Oh, John Cheney. My bad, John.
Yeah, we got a couple Cheneys in here. But what I want you to do, Cheney, I want you to take what you heard Ron say, and I want you to look at that from being, an active father with your children, boys and girls. Can you see yourself, when you're struggling, becoming an introvert in certain situations and pulling yourself away from your kids to try to deal with or cope with whatever you're dealing with? Or do you put on, and we're going to get into this later, but I'm going to bring it up now, do you put on a mask and continue to act like everything's fine in spite of?
Well, I think it's a process. I think as a generation, just like Ron said, we grew up in an era where men didn't ask for help. And that gets, that gets handed down. And I think what I've done, what I've had to do was realize that you do need help. I mean, you look at from physically, it's hard to get black men just to go to a regular doctor. I mean, my grandfather, we used to have to make him go to the doctor. So just going to a regular doctor, and then you're talking about going to get your head examined, so to speak, and with all the stigmas that go with that. But I've had to adjust because we are in a different era. We are at a different time. And the only way to break those are to actually break them and be, my kids watch what we do. So we have to be able to put down some of the things we were taught growing up, and be able to, like, for instance, I tell my kids I love them. That was something that men didn't say to us when we was growing up. You knew they loved you, but they wouldn't openly express it. So it's just different stigmas and different things that I think from different generations that we just have to change. And I think, with society recognizing it more now, I think it's easier for us now to make that change.
Yeah. Battle. And Mac, I got something for you specifically, but I want to go to Battle real quick. So, Battle, growing up, and I think you did, like I always tell you, the senior statesman of this organization when we do this. But growing up in Alabama, watching the things that your father, as a black farmer, had to deal with the racism, the discrimination, and the constant battle of trying to keep what he owned. How has that affected not what you've seen with him battling, being a Vietnam vet and all that, but how has it affected you and your mental health when you sit back and think about some of those things? Does it still carry over into what your actions are today? Has it made you radical, as they say? I mean, how's it affected you? You got.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you good?
Okay. Yeah, it affected me a lot. When you first started the show, one of the first things, the first question that you asked, the first thing that came to my mind was, you can hide it, but it doesn't mean it's not there. No. So, because when I was growing up, that's kind of the way it was. Everybody kind of hid all of those types of mental feelings, the emotions and everything. So, I mean, my father I never remember my father ever giving me a hug when I was a child. I think the first time I remember my father giving me a hug was probably a little bit before he passed away. And I always thought back to a kind of a commitment that I made to myself when my daughter was born. I always said I always want to be, as emotionally involved with her as possible and physically involved with her as possible, because it was something that I did not get when I was growing up. It was something that, growing up in Alabama, it was hard for a lot of men to express any type of feelings other than, I think in some cases it was more or less like shame, because they felt, I think a lot of times inadequate. They felt inadequate, even though they weren't. They were hardworking people. They just, you know, because of the conditions, it was just it was hard for them to, I think, express those types of feelings. And for us growing up, it was just, you know, kind of accept it as it is. Don't talk about it. You know, the first time I went to a psychiatrist was this year. The very first time I ever went to a psychiatrist.
And we're gonna get deeper into that too, about the therapy aspect. But yeah.
And so that was you know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I want to piggyback on something you said, and then I want to go to Phil for a minute. But something you said, how back then they didn't know how to express what they were going through. You know, the generations before us, and it bled into how we handle things. You know, it was you know, man up. You know, shake it off. It ain't that serious. Did you die? All those different things that we hear, right? Do we understand, or can we even fathom the fact that when we talk about the injustices been going on, and when I think about this with the mental health aspect, three people really come to mind, and we all know who they are because we put them on this pedestal. Think about the struggles and the battles that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had to deal with by doing what he was doing. Though it was right. Malcolm X, James Baldwin, Rosa Parks, any of those people we think about that were battling the injustices, and then they had their own things that they had to deal with just by being a Black man. And I said Rosa Parks in there, but she struggled too. And I bring that up because I want to go to Mac right now. And everybody that knows Mac was in law enforcement for how many years?
A little over 20.
Over 20 years. As a Black man in law enforcement, when you see the things that you see, and we've talked about this before, but when we talked about the vulnerability part and everything like that, how do you separate those things of doing a job and being a man in order to keep your sanity?
For most law enforcement officers, I mean, it's a struggle. They can't. Suicide amongst law enforcement officers is very high. Alcoholism is also very high with law enforcement officers. So I'd say me personally, mine was trying to find that one little out, if you will, that disconnect, if you will. And for me, personally, it was when I had my daughter. You know, that would be my time away from work and so forth, was spending time with my daughter, taking my mind off of everything else, especially towards the later years of my law enforcement career, dealing with a lot of confidential and undercover stuff. I couldn't go and talk to anybody else about it. You know, I'm definitely not going to sit there and discuss it with my child. So it was just one of those things where you had to learn that you had to turn that switch on, but at a certain time you had to back off of it sometimes and say, hey, you know what, I just got to ease up for a minute. But it's hard. It's very difficult. Very, very difficult. Extremely.
So let me ask this, and I'm just put this out to the crew. So when we're talking about mental health, and everything we've talked about deals with, you know, our experiences and what's going on with us and everything like that, right? So let me ask it this way. We all were disciplined when we were younger, somehow, some way, whether it was with a belt, the lashing of the tongue, any of the things you can think about that your mom or your parents or your grandparents or your uncles did to discipline you in that back in the day. Can you put some of those things into the mental well-being of who we are and who we become, as far as how we were treated in times of where we did something wrong? You know, all the things we can think about, and anybody can chime in on that, because I want to ask this question in the mindset of, is some of our mental health issues, do we correlate it to, when we go back in our past and think about things, even things that our parents did to us unknowingly, of how it would affect our mental health?
I think that's a big part of it, because I mean, even the food that our parents used to feed us, we've had to, adjust and move. So I think that sometimes our parents thought they were doing, they did what they thought was best. But as we get older and we see that there's different ways to handle things, like dealing with your emotions, dealing with the rejection, teaching our young men how to deal with rejection, just dealing with different emotions instead of just suppressing them. I think what I hear from everybody is that's what we did. We suppressed our feelings. We did not know how to deal with our feelings. And it shows a lot now. If you see a lot of men are hurting and even killing their significant other or somebody that leaves them because they can't deal with their emotions. They can't deal with those feelings in a healthy way. And again, with that stigma, that's what keeps us out of going to actually get help. We looked at as being weak or looked at as being crazy or just that word mental health. So I think we just got to get past that. And it just us talking about it is a great start. We got to continue to talk about it.
Okay, go ahead, P.
I want to answer that question you just asked, RC. Our parents didn't know any better. They learned from their parents.
Yeah,
So they projected their discipline in raising us as to how they were raised. So when I had my kids, I was young. So I projected that same style of parenting, that same style of discipline on my kids.
Yeah.
And as I got older and a little bit more wiser and got to thinking, I got to back off because this ain't right. This ain't right. I got to teach them a better way because they're going to have kids. And now I'm glad I did because it reflects now. I got a 19-year-old grandson who lives with me, and every morning, every night, boy tells me I love you, Papa.
Yeah.
My son tells me I love you. Got two more grandsons tell me I love you. My granddaughter tells me I love you. I try to reflect a different way of showing my emotions to them and showing them a better way of doing this by just having a conversation sometimes, backing off and thinking before you react. And thank God it's working.
Let me ask this question real quick, Pete, and then OT, I want you to chime in. So when we say that, and what you just said is our parents didn't know, our grandparents didn't know, but here's where it gets tricky, in my opinion, and I'm just gonna put that out there, because what you just said is what the cycle is.
Yeah.
And when I say the cycle is, our parents discipline us, our grandparents nurture us. In most cases, it's that generational skip. We all know if you were close to your grandparents, you went to them for anything and everything because they were loving on you.
Right.
Because the mom and the dad were the disciplinarians. So I don't think it's anything that has changed generationally. I think it's something that changes in our mindset when we become grandparents, because we're responsible for the children, for our grandchildren, but we're not directly responsible. The ones you're directly responsible for is the ones you're the hardest on. Because you're concerned about them making the same mistakes, or not to make. You don't want them to make the same mistakes you made.
Right.
So that gap in there from a parent, and then you become a grandparent. Those grandkids that come along, all you're doing is loving on them. You discipline them, but it's a different type of discipline.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? OT, talk to me.
Well, it's so. My father, Vietnam vet, especially with the community. My dad been getting therapy for over 45 years, right? And during that time, we used to always say, Pop just going through his emotions, you know what I mean? Dad going through some things and stuff like that. And my mom used to always say, he's going through therapy to keep his hands off of y'all. That was her exact words. So understand that the therapy is helping, because doing the things that he's seen through his Vietnam days and being a tunnel rat, and then coming back to racism in America while you're over there fighting for America, it's a different thing. And I never understood that until, my mom passing. how he showed no emotion, right? And going through therapy showed me the reason why he didn't show no emotions.
Right.
But during all this time, all the family members, and we used to all say, like, yeah, he's still going to therapy. And I was like, yeah, my dad's still going through the things that happened to him back in the 70s and stuff like that, but never ever understood. Like, my dad wasn't never the disciplinarian, right? Like, my dad never disciplined us. What he did do, he did a psychology way, what I mean, make us read books about history and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But my mom was the nurturer, so but at the end of the day, I never understood why in a whole. So when it comes down to seeing him go to therapy, I list him as crazy. Like, this man going to therapy, this man cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for real. But in reality, like my mom said, he's going to therapy to keep his hands off of y'all, to
So
keep him level headed with society and what society did to him.
yeah, and that's the thing, because what you said in there, and I'm gonna ask this facetiously per se, because none of it's a laughing matter. But when I ask this question, when our parents or your mom tells you, you know, he does what he's doing to keep his hands off you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we with that mindset and that mentality, are we enabling the person to a certain extent? Because rather than getting them more help, we're just saying that he's not doing this because this, there's an action and there's a reaction, I guess I'm
Yeah.
saying. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I think what we do is we put the what could happen to be like the main thing, rather than what should be happening as the main thing, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Ron, let me ask you this one, man, because we've been talking about experiences, and most experiences we deal with as Black men kind of intersect somehow, some way, right? So as Black men, how does as where we're at now, let's go past the experiences of being a child, growing up, parents and everything, what we grew up understanding, right and wrong. But as where we're at now and our experiences when we get out on our own, how does our mental health intersect with issues like racism and discrimination?
Man, you're gonna hit me with that bomb, man. Yeah.
Well, and let me tell you why.
No.
Let me tell you why I asked you. I'm gonna tell you why I specifically asked you. I specifically asked you that because being an introvert, there are certain things that could happen to you that deal with the racism and the discrimination on that side, that being an introvert, you would just take it all in. There's no expression, you may not express it, but I always like to say it this way, it's a powder keg. And it's bubbling under the surface. So that's why I wanted to ask you, because I can look at all the rest of them. I know them, they'll fight. I know what they're gonna do, which most of us will. But as a person that doesn't like per se that confrontation or anything like that per se, does it intersect with our mental health, and how much does it affect you in that manner?
I mean, I definitely think it, intersects with your mental health, whether or not you're, a sociable person, introvert, extrovert, whatever it is, because, just as a member of society, things that impact, other people, it still impacts you indirectly as well. So I think that from a mental health perspective, when certain things, have the potential to impact you, even if it doesn't directly. For example, driving while Black or any of these type of things. I have an 18-year-old son, just turned 18, last weekend or whatever. And of course, there are things that happen in society that, even though, me not being maybe per se in these streets, for example, as somebody that's more so to himself, I'm still aware of the going, things that's going on in society, and understand that, well, it could still impact me, or even if it doesn't impact me directly, it could impact somebody that I love, that's maybe, more out there, or more social, or more, more involved in things. So, it still has, I think it still has a direct impact because because you're going to have loved ones and you're going to have people that you care about, much in the same way that you care about yourself. So you don't want anything to happen to them either. So you can't just be like, hey, I'm good. You're not going to be having that type of mentality. You're going to be like, man, every time my wife leaves the house, every time my 22-year-old daughter leaves the house, every time my 18-year-old son leaves the house, I'm going to still have a little bit of anxiety on their behalf, just like you said, things happening in the world. I'm gonna be like, man, I make sure that I want to make sure they're safe. I'm checking the location sometimes on the phone, make sure they got to the destination, whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? So, me being to myself doesn't remove me from the responsibility of caring for the well-being of the people that I love.
Hey, Mac, let me ask this question. Oh, you got to echo like a mug, man. we gonna come back to you. Yeah, I think you got to turn your volume down or something. But I'll ask anybody in it that wants to chime in. Yeah, you got to echo, bro.
You got to echo, bro. Still echoing?
Oh, real bad.
I don't know why.
I'm hearing myself 3 times, bro. So let me do this then. Battle.
Yes.
With everything that you just heard Ron say, right? As a supervisor, manager, or whatever you may be in your workplace, how much does your mental health dictate how does it affect your mental health when you're dealing with employees that are both black and white? Do you deal with them on different levels when it comes to discipline? I mean, most of us been supervised and everything like that. So our mental health sometimes, and what I wanted to ask Mac, but we try to get this echo is, as a police officer, pulling up on a scene mentally, does things change depending on who is involved in what you're pulling up on? Let's see if we got Mac without the echo. Go ahead, Mac.
I'm still echoing. Is it still an echo?
No.
Okay.
Only on mine.
You're trained that it shouldn't, excuse me. Your training says that it should not affect you when you pull up on the scene, depending on who's there, who's involved, and so forth. But at the end of the day, I still tell new officers to this day when I speak to them, you're human. At the end of the day, it's gonna play a role on you. It's always going to take a toll, so to speak, on you, depending on who it is, what the situation is, and so forth. Your entire life, you're programmed, and I won't say your entire life, but for me, it was most of my life. I was programmed from the time I was raised as a child, right on over to law enforcement. That you block everything else out and you keep it moving. So does the whole black and white thing come into play when you pull up on a scene? I'd say, yeah, but mentally you can't really stand there and say, hey, I'm going to look at this different because this person is black or this person is white. But in the back of your mind, you're like, I wonder how much more resources and so forth would be available if this person was not of this color or that color or whatever. So
makes sense.
Go ahead, because
you look like you wanted to say something.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, I personally have seen in the past where I pulled up on scenes, and this is many moons ago, but I pulled up on scenes where resources that may have been available for a person not of color, they were made available like that compared to a person of color. Those same resources are like, well, no, hey, you're going to have to call and make these phone calls or make these arrangements on your own. Whereas when it was a person that was not of color, it was like, oh, well, here, let me give you a list of phone numbers and a list of these different resources that can help you through this traumatizing experience. So,
yeah.
I think.
Pete, go ahead, John.
I just like to say that I think that touches on something, and that is, we gotta make those things available. we have to have more people, just like with other things. We got to have more people that get into those fields. We have to have more people that can deal with mental health in our community, and we got to make sure that those things are those resources are available, because when you go from one point where you don't have anybody going to these resources, and now you got people aware of them. So now we have to have, I was just looking at, I think it's one black psychologist for every 100,000 black folks. So it's a numbers game too, and we got to have mental health specialists that we can go to for help.
But do they have to be black?
Now, I think what I was looking at is each person, you got to find the right person for you. That may be a black person, because number one, there's things that a black person is going to be able to relate to, that they've gone through some of the same situations, that they can deal with it. But do you have to have a black psychologist? I don't think so.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you why I asked that question. I asked that question.
I'm gonna interrupt. Yeah, they need to be black.
Well, and I'm gonna ask that question only because if we know we need help, and we also know in that same mindset that there's not enough of the resources for us, do we just blow it off?
That's
Or do we use, because here's the thing. If I need a doctor to fix something, a broke leg or something like that, when I go in there to get that leg fixed, do I worry about who the doctor is that's fixing my leg or putting the cast on? 9 times out of 10, no. But when we talk about mental health, then we get into the point of, well, I need somebody that can understand my experiences. I understand that part. But at the same time, our experiences, sometimes you got to take a step back seat and say, wait a minute, until I can find somebody that looks like me, I got to talk to somebody. And I think that's one of the roadblocks that we run into, is that, and I'll put it in these terms. We always hear people come out and say, support black business. But then when the black business opens up, we don't even support it. And I only say that because, when it comes to our health, let's just talk about our health as a whole, not just mental health, but our health as a whole. We will find every excuse not to take care of ourselves. In most cases, depending on what it is, it'll go away, it'll heal over time. But our mental part, like we're talking about, the discrimination. I mean, I know, and I'll put it out there like this. I'm pretty sure everybody sitting on here today and everybody listening was affected by what happened to George Floyd that we watched on TV. Somehow, some way, we all were affected, but we don't equate that to having a certain amount of PTSD from that experience. In spite of the fact that we all seen a man die for doing something that is a normal misdemeanor or whatever they say. I don't know the law like that, but I'm just saying. but we find roadblocks, or we find excuses. Let me say that. Sometimes we find more excuses to not do what we need to do to help ourselves than we do to find solutions. And I understand, John. I understand, Ron. Yeah, I would like to sit down and talk to somebody black. But sometimes we don't even talk to our own black family members because we're worried about them going back and telling somebody else what he just said, as OT mentioned. Mm-hmm. So how do we break that cycle of understanding that, yeah, I would like to have somebody that looks like me, but man, right now I need help. How do we balance that?
That was me. That was me. I didn't care if there was black, brown, orange, green, came from, I needed help. Mm-hmm. So, who I'm working with now is a young white lady. There wasn't anybody black available, but I didn't care what color it was, because it wasn't about color to me. It was about me getting the help that I needed. I would have taken it from anybody because I knew I was struggling. So I'm not worried about color. I'm worried about what can you do for Reggie P. Rowe to make Reggie P. Rowe a better Reggie P. Rowe, and that's how I went in looking at it.
Yeah, and I say it that way because we don't want to get to the point where I'm on the 1-800 suicide line And I'm on that line because I waited so long to ask for help because I was looking for somebody to look like me. That's the only point I'm making. I'm not trying to say we shouldn't, but we shouldn't get to the point where we're in dire straits that now I'm at the edge of my rope. And because I waited so long to find somebody to look like me, I don't have no hope. You know what I'm saying? And we hear too many stories about that. Go ahead, Jane.
But if, when we talk about, discrimination and all those types of things, normally the first emotion that we have, if we're involved in that, if we're the victim of those things, the first emotion that we have is anger. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking for someone to talk to, we're definitely not going to look for someone that may have been the person that made us angry or look like the person that made us angry. So, in those types of situations, I think we're going to, I know for me personally, I'm probably going to be like, I got to find somebody that's black. I got to find somebody that looks like me to talk to, because I might go in there and the first thing they might say something, and I might just punch them or something. I don't know. So
no.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead, Ron.
No. I want to just chime in real quick to what James, Cheney, and P-Roll was saying. And I was being mostly facetious early when I was like, yeah, they gotta be black. You know what I'm saying? I agree. I agree with Cheney and P-Roll that, and you, Collins, if you need help, you need help. But my opinion is probably closer reflecting to what James was just saying from the perspective. And I say that because I think the reference point of the person that you're speaking to, in my opinion, kind of has to be rooted in the same thing and in a similar area of your experience. So I say that to say, if I'm talking to somebody about an issue with being a black man and it's a white woman and she's, walking me through that, even if she really, sincerely wants to help me, her frame of reference is just so far from my experience that I just feel like it would be very difficult. So, like I said, when I was saying facetiously, they got to be black, it was more so not a thing where I'm trying to exclude all other, people. But at the end of the day, I'm like, well, this person can want to help me and just still not understand enough about what it is that I'm talking about, even as a professional. You know what I'm saying? They just may not understand enough to actually really be able to help me. And I know that a lot of times when you reach out to help or talk to people or even listening to Facebook comments and stuff, certain things, folks will oversimplify something and say, hey man, they just should have blah, blah, blah. They just should have did this. They just should have did that. And I'm like, yeah, that works for certain segments of the populace. That don't always work for somebody that looked like me. So when you oversimplify it and say, hey, you just should have did that, I'm like, they think they're being helpful and they think they're right. And I'm like, hey, maybe if I looked like you, maybe I would think that would work too, but I know better. But I'm gonna let you have that.
So, I got a question.
Wait a minute, OT. I want you to chime in on this one that I'm getting ready to put out here right now. Hold on. I was coming directly to you off of what Ron said. So I want us to be clear now. Here's the thing that I think we need to look at, and maybe I'm being too deep in the roots of this, but think about where we're at right now and what we're talking about as far as I want somebody who looks like me that understands my experiences, right? But at the same time, when we talked about our childhood experiences, who was the one that imposed those mental health issues on us? We talked about our parents, our grandparents, different things that happened. I'm not saying imposed. I'm saying some of the things that happened to us growing up were done to us by people that look like us. But now we're saying when it's time for therapy, we want somebody that looks like us, who sometimes are the ones, because not all of us racial discrimination. Let's just be real now. Sometimes the ones that we need therapy for look like us. So, and that's why, and that's why I'm saying we need to look at the help first, like you said, Ron. You know, we got to look at the help first that we need, and then go from there. The biggest thing I think is some people use the fact of they can't find a black therapist as an excuse to not go. That's all I'm saying. So, OT, do you see that as far as, you know, we got these traumas that we talk about from growing up, and then at the same time, we want them same people that probably got the same traumas as us talking to us. But what's one thing we always heard when we were younger? Man up.
Yeah. Well,
Man up.
I got to piggyback off of that because I had my first therapist was black, and you don't know where they came from, right? So some of the experience that I'd had, she had no clue, right? So we got to be real careful about wanting, just because they're black, they might not have never went through anything that we went through.
Wow.
Ever. So you got to be real careful about that, because there's a lot of Caucasians and Europeans that actually went through the same thing that we went through, but on a different level. But it all equals out to the same, right? So my next therapist was a Caucasian man that came from a trailer park. Like, he gave me his information. I'm sitting back like, that dude, like, you're dealing with a whole lot. Like, yeah. So my first experience, women had no clue about anything that I was dealing with, because she never got put in any kind of those predicaments, and she did not come from the same area that I came from. And when I say same area, you know what I mean? Sometimes it might be the hood, right? But she lived in the suburbs. So she never understood what certain things mean when I was having conversation with her, because then she was like, well, explain that a little bit more, because I'm not understanding. So we got to be real careful when we talk about, oh yeah, I just want this black therapist right here, and this black therapist really have no clue about what you're dealing with at all. But then you might get a Caucasian therapist that did come from the bottom, as we want to say, hood, all that good stuff, and he dealt with the things that we are dealing with, right? He probably dealt with, you know, police brutality, because we got to remember there's white people that is getting, you know, police brutality too, but they just don't televise it because of the fact that they know what's going to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't judge the book by the cover.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
And here's the funny thing: we
there's a lot of research out there for that too, because they just don't televise it for certain reasons.
Oh no, of course not. But here's the funny thing about that: we'll talk about, you know, and we'll make these comments sometimes when we don't agree with somebody that looks like us, and say all skin folk ain't kin folk. But then when we need help, we say, I need to go talk to somebody that looks like me. Y'all need to make a damn decision. Let's be real. Let's make a decision now. We got to stop straddling this fence. We got to stop straddling the fence and go get the help you need.
Yes.
And then start looking at who can better. Because the thing is, your initial problem may not deal with anything racial until you start talking it out.
Yep.
Then is when you say, you know what? I don't think this therapist I'm dealing with can understand where I'm coming from, because now that I've got to the root cause of what's going on, that person, as Tracy Battle said, anger is rooted in fear. So that makes perfect sense to want to stay far away from the trigger. So now if I'm in therapy because I needed it that bad, and now then I'm getting rooted in the root cause of what's going on, and that trigger is the one trying to help me. Now I got to make a decision to find somebody like me. Don't not find somebody when you need it. Make it a point to get the help, and then make it a point to find somebody that can correlate better to what you're saying. Suicide. Now I pulled this up. Normally I don't like pulling up stats because, you know, they don't do that stuff in the barbershop, but we're gonna do it today. It says suicide rates among Black Americans are increasing by double digits. This is an article from September 11th, 2023. For decades, the rate of suicide among Black Americans was a fraction of what it was for white people. But in recent years, suicide is becoming more common in the Black community. For Black children 12 and under, the suicide rate is now higher than it is for white kids. 12 and under now. Listen to that number. 12 years and younger, our suicide rate is higher than white kids. The incidence of suicide among Black folks rose 19.2% over 3 years, from an age-adjusted rate of 7.3 suicides per 100,000 people in 2018 to 8.7 in 2021. The Health Policy Research Organization, the Kaiser Family Foundation, reported that suicide in the Black community jumped 58% from 2011 to 2021. Over a 10-year span, suicide, because here's the thing. When you talk suicide, and we all are old enough to remember this, Black people don't kill themselves.
Mhm.
Black people don't kill themselves. But in all reality, we didn't kill ourselves with a trigger, but we were killing ourselves with stress, diabetes, heart attacks, high blood pressure. We were killing ourselves health-wise, maybe not mentally where we couldn't adjust, but that's a part of it. When I seen these numbers, I wanted to bring them up because something I also found out that I'm a big fan of is James Baldwin. How many of y'all knew James Baldwin committed suicide? How many of y'all knew James Baldwin tried 4 times before he was successful? 4 times. And James Baldwin was one of the most, and you got to think about the mental health he was battling. Not only as a Black man, but as a gay Black man in this country at that time. So when we talk about suicide, it's a sticky situation for me when I look at it. I don't know about everybody else's opinion. When you talk about suicide, because like we talked about a few minutes ago, trying to find the help you need, you try to confide in your brothers. That's where you start, your family, your friends, and anything like you're confiding. But how much are you actually opening up and saying what's going on? And then you get a therapist. Could be the point where that therapist, as Tracy Battle said, you start digging into what's going on with you and something triggers from that therapist. So my question would be, when it comes to suicide and our rates that we see at 12 years old in our community, where do we as Black men need to be involved with our young kids in our community to try to at least minimize? You probably ain't gonna stop it all, but to minimize the amount of kids that are committing suicide at 12 years old.
You know, I lost an 8-year-old to suicide.
Mm.
You remember that, RC?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
8 years old. I cut her down myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's part of my problems. But, So, knew she was dealing with some stuff, man. You know, we had her everywhere doing everything, medication, everything. We just left her alone and thought she was playing. But so it is a slippery slope, gentlemen, because you have no clue. And then you're trying to help a person and they want the help, but they don't want the help. And then they get the help. And then it's just, man, it's a battle. And for a parent, man, you know, think about that. Think about what the parent has to go through. Think about what her mother's still going through. You know, think about what I deal with. You know, it's not easy. So when you're talking kids, man, and the peer pressure, it's, you know, being bullied, you know, just life as a kid nowadays, man, it's rough. You thought we had it rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
I just
Go ahead.
I just dealt with that, right? Not on the death part, but my child, you know what I mean, cutting herself and stuff like that. And sometimes, you know, we gotta dig into ourselves, but this is what I'm going to say. You know, we can't help nobody if we're not even getting help. Right? So how can we sit up here and say, oh yeah, I recognize a person is going through a little bit of trauma, but we haven't even dealt with our own trauma.
Amen. That's it. I
That's
think
why I'm in therapy.
Right. And that's the problem that we have in our society, right? Because kids know who can help, and kids know who was just there, right? They know it for sure. And dealing with kids and stuff like that, for me, you know, in the community, Imagine a 12-year-old saying, I want to get shot by the cops because that's the only way I'm going to get glorified. Right. So what do you say to that? And because of me having therapy, I talked to him about it. Right. And we have to understand that we need that, us as Black men, because we are dealing with it every day, from being a father, from being an uncle, from working every day, from driving every day, and a man said this to me. He said, the stressful part is going to work, driving into work. That is the most stressful part in the world. The blessing part is coming home. We don't even understand that. If I
We
would
take
say
it for
that to,
granted. We
yeah,
take it for granted.
if I would say that to a lot of Black men, they sit up there and like, oh, that's bull crap. But that's the truth.
Yeah. We got
Right.
a comment I want to read.
Okay.
Take time and think. Many of us go above and beyond at times to try and fit in with what we have been taught to believe the white way is the right way. Many times, more often than not, these are the conversations that are had in private amongst us, but not always out loud. We have to do better as a whole to help each other mentally, emotionally, and physically. I don't think any of us could have said it any better. Appreciate that. Take time and think. Appreciate you tuning in and support.
I like to back on that. I think that's like when we was growing up, we used to say, do as I say, not as I do. But I noticed my kids would always say, Dad, we don't believe in that. We watch what you do. And it's a whole different era. And Muhammad Ali said it best. He said, if you're 50 years old and you still think like you did when you was 20, you just wasted 30 years of your life.
Wow.
So we have to evolve. And then we got to make these things normal. And I'm speaking to myself. We got to make these things normal in our household. We got to talk about these things so that they're normal in our household. So that when somebody speaks about mental health, it's not a taboo. It's not, ooh, a got you thing. It's something that's normal. And I think that's what happens with our kids. They're still feeling that they're not normal for having these basic emotions. These are normal emotions. And we as men haven't been able to deal with them. And then we pass it on and we just don't make it, normal. Like in some households, sports is normal. Everybody knows sports. We got to go to practice. We got to go to the train, but we got to make these types of things normal conversations in our household. And I speak for myself.
Breaking those curses.
We have
got another comment too. Yeah. And that's right, John. I mean, NY Davis, good morning. Thank you for this segment. I have 3 young Black men that I have raised, and you're shining lights on things that I haven't realized are relevant to our Black men. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There it is. Thank you for tuning in and getting something from this, because, I'm going to say this, man. This is one of the things I was going to say. We all are here and we're talking about mental health. We're talking about our experiences. We've talked about therapy. We've talked about all that. But if we're being honest with ourselves right here today, can any of us say that we're not broken? Can you say you're whole as a man? Can we honestly say that and feel comfortable saying it? Or will we be comfortable telling that lie? And when I say telling a lie, I'm just saying it's that mask that I was going to bring up. Because 9 times out of 10, there's things that we deal with that nobody knows about but us. Not your spouse, not your children. Nobody knows about but you. And the thing is, when I say broken, not broken to the sense that you can't still function, but broken to the point that there's something that either holding you back, preventing you from loving in the way you should be loving somebody. Anything you can think of that we show emotion or try to reach out to do the right thing at times, there's something that is broken within us somehow, some way, from experiences, from childhood trauma, any of those things that is broken, that we all need to sit back for a minute, reflect on, and figure out what I need to do, not to make it unbroken, but to fix what needs to be fixed. And that starts with, because we can talk to each other all day long, but how many of us are actually going to say to each other how broken we are? I might give you bits and pieces, I might give you bits, but the full story of how broken I am. Let me click these comments. Brian Hoodie, this is very informative. Hits home for me. Thank you, brothers. Raymond Hunter, make mental health normal. Sounds like a great motto or a catchphrase. Yeah, make mental health normal. So I'm gonna say this too, because we're hour and 6 in, and I'm not cutting it off today, but I got something I want to put in here, and I want all you to chime in. We are the generation of, and we've always heard it. We've heard it in movies and different things like that. And we say, "Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper?" Are we? Are we truly?
Yeah.
Are we?
We should be.
We should be.
Well, we should be. And the reason I say that, the consensus is we are. But let me ask you this. If we are our brother's keeper and we know that you, as my brother, are my keeper, why can't I confide in you for the deepest parts of me that are broken? Why? Because if you're going to tell me am I my brother's keeper, and you say yes, then I have to push back and say, if I come to you with the brokenness part of who I am as a man, how do you look at me after that? Because that's the mindset that we have. So as cliche as it may sound, I mean, think about it. Nino Brown killed his boy for that. I mean, think about it. That's one of the main times we heard him on my brother's keeper. You know what I'm saying? So Mac, talk to me, man. What you think?
Me personally, I would say I don't think, as a whole, I don't think we are. I think it's convenient to say so when I think it's very convenient for some brothers to say that they are, but like you just said, when it really comes down to it, when I'm really in need to be able to confide in that brother about something serious or what have you, it's like, man, come on, hey man, listen, suck it up, man, keep it moving. You ain't got time to deal with that garbage. So, I don't believe that we are as a whole. And I think we got a lot of work to do to get there, to be able to turn that, again, to have guys turn that, I don't know if it's an emotional or sensibility switch on or off, but just to be able to say, hey, man, yeah, you can come talk to me, man. I get it. You can talk to me. I'm going to keep this between me and you. I'm not going to laugh at you or belittle you just because of something you may be personally going through in your life. Yeah. And that's what's important right there. That's where a lot of brothers fall short at, why they don't want to go talk to somebody, because they're ridiculed about it. Yeah. Once I come and talk to you about it, it's like, oh man, that's stupid, or oh man, that's so minor. It's minor to you because it's not happening to you,
right?
But it's not minor to them. So take time and listen to them, hear them out. It's something important enough to them to come to you and talk to you about it.
Well, so I gotta say this.
Hold on, OT. Let me just say this. I'm gonna let you chime in. Here's the other part of that. If we have, and I'm gonna say a plethora of friends, right? So you have a plethora of friends, not just one, not two, a plethora. We will go and talk to certain ones about certain things. We don't have that one end all to be all, because what happens is, if I'm confident with P-Ro about a certain situation, I'll talk to him. But if there's something I'm not comfortable talking to him about, I'll talk to John. And if there's something I don't feel comfortable about talking to John or P-Ro about, I'll talk to Ron. Or I'll talk to P-Mac. We pick and choose when we want to be vulnerable and who we want to be vulnerable to. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is sometimes we have to check ourselves when we say that, am I my brother's keeper? At the same time, when we're talking about our mental health, because what we do, even when we're struggling, we still pick and choose how we're going to deal with it and who we're going to deal with it with. Goes back to therapy. We're going to pick and choose who we go to is no different than what we do every day. So when we say I got to have a black therapist, well, you got black friends and you don't even talk to all of them. You only tell some of them your deepest, darkest secrets, because some things are best kept to yourself, because you don't want that brother to start looking at you differently or not making them phone calls as often as he used to because you didn't reveal something about yourself, and take time and think. We as men have to step up and take responsibility for our actions and our children. Look at the world around us with these kids thinking this is new age rap, TV, movies, and pushing the LGBTQ agenda upon us as normal to kids. Society is the problem because the narrative has consistently changed over time, and it doesn't work for us. And then Raymond Hunter said, are we bypassing the role of the church and the counseling of the clergy? Just curious. I didn't want to go there, but I'm gonna go there. And I'm glad you brought that up, Raymond Hunter, because I will say this about the clergy, and it's not all, so I don't want anybody to think this way. But I will ask, because I have a lot of friends that are pastors. I can probably count about 5 off the top of my head. I have a brother-in-law that's a pastor. I have, but here's the difference. Them being pastors, they were friends before they became pastors for me. So it goes back to what I said. If I can talk to this pastor about something, I may not be able to talk to that pastor about something. It's that picking and choosing again that we get into now. As far as the church as a whole, I don't want to use that broad paintbrush to stroke it that way, because you do have the church that is involved in mental health and helping people. But sometimes, we got this hesitation with the church because it seems like everybody in the church know your business before you even told your business. Take time and think. In my opinion, the church and clergy are just responsible for taking from our communities and not giving back to our communities like they did when we were kids. And I'll have some clergy on about that, because I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I'm not I got called out a couple weeks ago because I said I wasn't going down that rabbit hole. They said, "You're getting soft." I said, "No, I'm getting smart." See, there's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference. Yeah. Because the thing is, and I talked to Willis about this, and I wish he was on, but I talked to Willis about it, and I said, there's some things that you need to stay away from when you don't know everything about the situation. You need to educate yourself before you talk about it. And that was it. Raymond Hunter said it was food for thought. No, I get it, bro. I get it. I'm just not going down there. I'm not going down there. Let me put this challenge out to everybody right now. Going forward, because I was watching The Pivot. I don't know if anybody watched The Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark, Channing Crowder, and Fred Taylor. And they were doing an episode where they were giving Ryan Clark his flowers for winning an Emmy for doing what he does in broadcasting. And he was thanking them and appreciating them for their support and everything. But then he asked a question to Fred Taylor. He said, I got a question I want to ask both of them, but I'm going to start with Fred. Are you good? Are you okay? And do you need anything from me? Mm-hmm. Are you good? Are you okay? And do you need anything from me? I'm going to put this as a challenge to anybody listening and my brothers that are here today. Start asking those questions of your buddies. Yeah. When you call up and somebody comes to your mind, you've always heard me say this, pick up the phone and call them. Because if it came to your mind, there's something about them at that time that you need to reach out and find out what's going on. That's number one. The second part of that is this. You'll be amazed how good that person on the other end receiving that phone call will be receptive to you just picking up the phone just because. Start there. But when you ask those 3 questions, don't let them just blow it off. Mm-hmm. Are you good? Because are you good and are you okay are 2 different things. Yeah. Are you good and are you okay are 2 different things. And then, do you need anything from me? That could open up a whole conversation, because Fred Taylor on that show broke down in tears because he was thinking about his grandmother. She's dealing with dementia and things like that. You can go back and watch the episode. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But it sparked something with me to let me know, like when I call P-Row, if I call Cheney, you're going to get that from me. You're going to get that, because most of the times when we call each other, hey, man, what's going on? And then we just jump into sports. We jump into what's going on. We might go into what we're going to talk about on the show, but we never get to in the depths of, are you good, bro? Are you okay? Do you need anything from me? And sometimes we don't ask that question because we don't want somebody to need something from us because we ain't ready to give it. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes what we don't realize, man, is just the simple fact of time and putting out there that, hey, man, I'm here for you if you just need to talk. If you just need to talk. Because sometimes, and P-Ro, you said it many times to me, man, sometimes, because we grew up from 18 on, sometimes somebody you've known for a long period of time, that's therapy for you. Because they knew you in your trenches. They knew you through some of your trials and tribulations and may not have known everything about it. But we give them the benefit that they know me. They make me know what makes me tick, what makes me talk. And at the end of the day, you see me at my worst, you applaud me at my best. I should be able to confide in you when I'm going through what I'm going through. That's all. But we're going to wrap up. I want everybody to go ahead and put something in here to lead the people with about mental health as a whole. OT, I'm going to start with you. As Black men, you know, and let me just say this. As I said in the beginning of the show, I say Black men because that's what we are. And our experiences are different, but I'm pretty sure they're all similar. Because the N-word gets thrown at us, the discrimination, the racism, and everything. And there was something I wanted to bring up on here that I forgot, but there's an unspoken burden to being a Black man in this society, in this world. It's an unspoken burden to be a Black man in this society and in this world that a lot of people can't relate to. Just by being a Black man, it becomes a burden when you walk out your door, when you try to drive home, when you're trying to protect what's yours. It's burdensome. And it plays on the mental, which starts affecting the physical, and then makes you hold back from the emotional. It's all inclusive, and we got to be better with expressing ourselves and being better at seeking help and leaning on those who need to be leaned on and being the post for someone else that needs to lean to be able to lean on you. OT, go ahead, bro. Don't get choked up now. Come on, bro. Come on, bro.
It's okay
Yeah.
to say that you're hurting. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part. It's okay to not be okay. I think sometimes we feel we got to put this mask on like, I'm all right. I'm going to push through. It's okay to not be okay. And I think that's something that we need to put into our younger generation, and we need to feed into each other. Because sometimes I think we feel we got to put this bravado on, like nothing is affecting me and there's nothing wrong with me, but we're broken. And when we come to the conclusion that we're broken, then we know if something breaks in your house, what do? Find a way to get it fixed.
Yep.
And if you can't do it, you call somebody to do it.
Yep.
Start putting that in your mental health aspect of your life. Go ahead, James Battle. Talk to me. Oh, you on mute, bro. You on mute. You on mute? Yeah. It ain't coming off mute, bro. Cheney, go ahead. We'll get Battle in here in a minute. Go ahead, Cheney. Talk to me.
I just like to piggyback off what OT said. We gotta take the S off our chest, stop being Superman, and be able to ask for help and understand that asking for help is not admitting that you're a bad person. It's just that all of us need help from time to time, and we just need to be able to humble ourselves and ask for that help. That's what that's the biggest problem for me. And that's something that I'm still dealing with right today. And that's why this show is helping me immensely, because, we got to put our pride down sometimes and ask for help so that we can be the men that we need to be.
Yeah.
So that's That's what I got to say. Thanks for everybody.
Yeah.
It's a
Raymond Hunter is doing a reveal. I'm a combat veteran. I have unresolved issues. I hid behind a Bush family life and career. I had my first session with a black therapist with the VA last week. So this was great for me. Hey man, I'm appreciate, and I'm glad that you got something out of it, man, because these are conversations that we need to have because we don't talk about these things. We don't talk about these things. P Mac, talk to me.
I'll just like to add on to what you were saying about, you know, ask those questions. You know, when you call each other up, ask those questions. You okay? You all right? You know, what have you. Um, I just want to say a lot of people will ask it, but they don't really mean it.
Right.
You know, how often do you hear somebody say, "Hey, how you feeling?" or what have you? They don't really mean it. So mean it. So you know, if you're gonna put it out there, take the extra time to stop and listen. If they say, "Well, you know, this is what's going on," because a lot of times it's just a matter of just a greeting of just saying, "Hey, how you doing?" or "You okay?" Okay, and like you said, then jump into something else. Mean it. Mean what mean what you say. If I genuinely ask about somebody, it's because I'm genuinely concerned. I'm not just saying it just to pass the time.
Say what you
Well, I'm sorry.
mean what you say.
Unless it's P-roll, that's different.
That makes sense.
Well, I'm gonna let
yeah, that makes sense.
I'm gonna let P-Roll go right now since you threw him under the bus right there. Go ahead, P. Talk to us, bro.
Let's work on breaking the chains and generational curses of mental and emotional challenges. You're more of a man if you ask for help than if you don't.
Amen.
Yeah, there it is.
On that one.
Yeah,
There it is.
there it is.
That's it.
Yeah,
I mean,
there it is.
and that's one of the things that I think is the hardest thing to do is to ask. And me and Ron had that conversation yesterday about asking, whether it's something as simple as something you need somebody to do, or asking somebody for some help. It's hard sometimes. Ron H, talk to me, bro. What you got?
Man, all these brothers have so eloquently summed up, kind of this whole conversation. But I'll just kind of say in closing, to find what therapy looks like to you. You know what I'm saying? We debated about whether, the person needs to look like that, look like this, blah, blah. But, for each person, the scenario may be different. I feel like this conversation itself is therapeutic.
Yes.
And judging from some of the comments, people feel like just having a conversation is therapy, therapeutic and therapeutic like. So, don't overthink it and complicate it. Just kind of, find the things that will help you resolve your issues and move forward on those things one step at a time.
Amen. Amen, my brother. James Battle, I see you back, bro. Talk to me.
Yes, sir. Just wanted to say kind of what I said at the beginning. Just because we don't talk about it or you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And we have to quit making excuses. I had to learn it the hard way myself. So hopefully everybody else don't do what I did. So
well, and the thing is, they always used to say the first step to recovery is admittance. You have to admit before you can actually recover from whatever you're dealing with. One of the things I know for sure, there's the depression aspect that plays a part in your mental health, that you may be going through something that you don't see a way out. I didn't know what I was dealing with at one time, and you've heard me say on here recover, but it was situational depression. And I had to look it up because Oprah mentioned it. Not that I was watching Oprah's show, but she mentioned it.
You would.
And it was situational situational depression. And when I read it and I started looking at it, that's what jumped out at me. And Cheese said something last week as well, because we always hear PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. But Cheese, Robert McKinney that was on last week mentioned something. He said he tells his students SEE, significant emotional event. Significant emotional event. C. And the thing about that is, the more I thought about it after he mentioned it last week, the more it made sense. because there's significant events that happen to us on a daily basis in our lives that we just blow off to say it's par for the course.
Mhm.
It's par for the course. Oh, this happens all the time and everything. But what we don't do is sit back and recognize how it's affecting us mentally. How it's affecting us mentally. I'll leave you with this. I bring up on this show a lot about what's going on in the world with politics and racism and all these different things, right? Justice system, where we got people that have served 35 years, didn't do it. We just seen the other day a man got released after 16 years and they killed him on the street for resisting arrest.
Yeah.
Mentally, he was in prison mode. 16 years he served for something he didn't do. And then when he got pulled over for something, he went back to prison mode because that's all he knew.
Institutionalized.
And it's one of those things when I see those things, man, it brings tears to my eyes because it could be any of us. It could be any of us. As much as we talk about prison and the prison system and the justice system, we talk about mental health with us as Black men, to a certain extent, we are in prison because we're not releasing ourselves from the bondage that has been put upon us from our experiences, from our childhood traumas, and anything else that's happened to us. Take them shackles off, unlock that that cage that you're in. You'll be surprised how free you feel once you go and talk to somebody, get that therapy, and open up to the point of understanding that, hey, I'm broken, but I can be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I can be fixed. That's how I'm gonna leave it today. Unless somebody got something else. OT.
You.
Happy birthday, brother.
Happy birthday, brother.
I appreciate it.
We
it, my guys.
We would sing, but you know, we ain't gonna do all that. We ain't gonna do all that.
We'll let you sing.
Listen,
This was
so I
ahead,
got a
Joe.
question though. Right?
Go ahead, Go ahead.
We are on here and we're talking about it. So let's start a group chat with all of us.
All right.
Okay.
Right. You know what I mean? Just ask that question.
Yeah.
So let's start that. So fellas, you know what I mean? You know, Ryan, you got my number. Yeah. So
We
since
can
you
do
got
that.
everybody numbers, we should be receiving something from you, the host. Yeah. 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 We
See.
pay you out there. Yeah.
As of right now, I am not my brother's keeper. Let's go wrap this up for today. No, I will take care of that, man, because you know what?
Yeah.
And that's what we need. That's what we need. We need to start, you know, we don't have community anymore. Because sometimes when we think community, we think local. But community is broad now with the aspect of being able to come on a Zoom call or StreamYard or do shows like this. Everybody's within reach. So when you say you ain't talked to somebody in a while, you haven't exhausted all possibilities to reach out to that person.
Yeah.
Let's just put it out there. And if you tell me you exhausted all possibilities and you at the point of calling the cops and the hospitals and stuff like that, then I'll be like, all right, yeah, we got to find out what's going on. But till then, you have not exhausted all possibilities to reach out to that brother and find out if he's all right.
Well, fellas, I gotta say this. I love y'all. I definitely appreciate y'all 100%.
100, dog.
100. Amen.
Man. All right, man. That's it. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I hope you got something from it because we sure did it while we on the panel. So for myself, OT, P-Mac, John Chaney, Reggie P-Row, Ron H., and my man James Battle, and we got an honorary. He's gonna be in here next week for sure. Next time we do this, so we're gonna have another one of these coming up. Willis Chaney, yeah, we're gonna get him in here because I know he got something to say. Yeah. So all right, y'all, we out, and we'll holler at y'all next week, man.
Yes, sir.
Peace. Well, no, I won't be on next week. I just thought about that, but we'll work it out. We'll work it out.
Hero,
appreciate
Creole
everybody. See, I told you to get your stuff together.
That gotta be somebody. Look, it wasn't me this time. It wasn't me this time.
It's always one. They gotta promote.
Do it.
Well, get it up and running, and then we'll really promote it. I appreciate
Working on it,
everybody.
baby. I'm on it.
Black men and mental health,
Take
baby.
care, folks.
Let's work on it. Let's get
All
ourselves
right,
together.
brother. Have a good weekend, bro. Enjoy y'all day.
All right, we out. Peace.
Hero. All right.
All right, John. Peace, bro. And we out. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Keep supporting. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific every Saturday morning. That's what we do here on the Speak On the Show. More conversations to come, and we out. Peace.